So we were interested in how MOOCs might affect business education. Everyone is sort of worried, and I think spending a lot of sleepless nights, that MOOCs might kill business schools. Cheap or free online education take apart the bricks and mortar of traditional high-end business schools like Wharton. And we were wondering, is that likely to be the case? The surprising findings to us is that with nearly 1 million people registering for the Wharton core courses, things like accounting and operations, as well as some added courses like gamification and the business of sports, it turns out that, in fact, MOOCs seem to be attracting people who are not in the usual MBA or executive MBA kind of programs, people from developing countries. High proportion of them in these MOOCs, they don't go to MBAs or executive MBAs. Firstborn Americans who tend to be highly educated but not terribly well employed. Again, a big proportion of the MOOCs, surprising to us, and yet not a big representative group in the MBA and executive MBA program. And probably, again, very surprising to us, a lot of underrepresented minorities, African Americans, Hispanics, and others, taking these massive online open business courses, but obviously a group that we're trying to get increased representation in the regular MBA and executive MBA programs. So getting these people who are otherwise not in the mainstream of MBA to the business education through MOOCs seems to be very surprising. And it suggests that actually MOOCs are serving a different kind of clientele than regular MBAs and executive MBAs, those people who maybe are traditionally excluded or underrepresented in our regular bricks and mortar classes. And it might serve a very enriched population to target for recruitment to MBAs and executive MBA programs. Smart, well-educated, very interested people who otherwise we might not have contacted. And in that regard, it doesn't seem like MOOCs are undermining traditional business schools, but maybe actually complementing them, enriching them, and providing a great opportunity to get other diverse student bodies. So I think the massive online education, these courses that reach thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people on various platforms like Coursera, edX, have been a real worry to people that they're going to upset the higher education marketplace, maybe undermine traditional education. And we were very interested in that. I'd say that the 3 or 4 big takeaways from our study are, first, these massive online open education courses, or MOOCs, seem to target very important groups that otherwise aren't involved in the traditional MBA or executive MBA programs. Groups like students in developing countries, especially non-BRIC countries, first-generation Americans, recent immigrants who are well-educated from their home country but maybe underemployed in the United States, probably using these MOOCs to gain additional skills and training and to demonstrate that they are competitive for jobs here. And then another very surprising group, underrepresented minorities, were also very overrepresented in the MOOC program as compared to the MBA or the executive MBA program. Nearly 20% of the enrollees on the American side were underrepresented minorities, and that's a group that many business schools have been trying to target to enroll in traditional MBA and executive MBA programs. A second surprising finding was that women did not fare that well, especially women in developing countries, in these MOOCs. They tend to be still dominated by well-educated men. There may be bigger barriers for women. Maybe they don't have the educational preparation to take advantage of the business-style MOOCs. It may also be that they don't have access to internet and other necessities, computers, for doing them. Third big takeaway is that many people lament the fact that there's high enrollment numbers, but when you look at the number of people who complete the course and get certificates, it's way down at 3, or in the case of business schools, 5%. Even though that's a small percentage, it's important to remember that when you start out with very large numbers, hundreds of thousands, that small percentage is many, many thousands of people, many more people than you have in a regular MBA program. But more importantly, many of the students say, look, getting a certificate is not that important for me. I got a lot of information or a lot of knowledge or what I wanted without getting the certificate. And so we need to think through how MOOCs are actually satisfying the educational needs of students rather than figuring out, the end result is to get everyone a certificate. And that may also have some important implications for the pricing model. Charging at the end for a certificate may not be the wisest move. Maybe other platforms for charging, like a monthly subscription fee or some other program, would be a much wiser way of revenue generation. So I think one of the important elements from our study of students who take the business massive online courses is that they are probably a very good target population for recruiting for traditional MBAs. These are groups that business schools have wanted to enroll, students from developing countries, underrepresented minorities who traditionally are underrepresented in business school. And so these massive online courses may allow targeting for recruitment that could be greatly enhanced. I'd say that the second important conclusion, certainly for business schools, is that they should look at MOOCs and these online course opportunities as opportunities, not as competitive, and shy away from them fearing that they're somehow going to undermine what they do in a traditional classroom or an executive MBA programs. At least initially now, they don't look competitive. They look like they might be synergistic. And I think exploring more deeply with the students who have taken the courses and what they think they've gotten out of them, how these courses can enhance or maybe bring them into the executive MBA, bring them into the traditional MBA programs, I think is where we should be looking. And so I think the fear and loathing that often accompanies MOOCs among academic administrators is probably overplayed, and we need to think of it much more as a positive opportunity to expand all the great resources we have educating students. Well, this research focused on business schools and business education because we had this unique opportunity given the fact that Wharton was running these sort of core preparatory courses in things like accounting and marketing and operations, as well as some of the additional more expansive courses like gamification. But I think the conclusions probably extend to higher education much more broadly. Again, many higher education administrators have sort of, on the one hand, thought they needed to experiment with massive online education, but on the other hand are kind of dreading it and fearing that it's going to somehow undercut their finances and the enrollments. What we suspect is that there's actually opportunity to use the online courses to augment what is happening in the traditional educational program, that in fact there are different audiences to use. I think the big challenge, which our study doesn't solve, is the question of how do you make a business model that makes sense for it, because it does look like completing the program, completing a set of courses, and paying for that is probably not the optimal approach. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal just the other week talking about how business schools might adapt or might fear massive online education, but it had no data. And so one of the things we have tried to do is, instead of having a lot of speculation about massive online courses and what they're going to do to higher education and who's taking them, is to actually collect data. And I think the University of Pennsylvania has been probably the leader both in offering massive online education courses, both for business as well as in the non-business areas, mythology or poetry or my own health policy course. We've also been pioneers in actually looking at who's taking the courses, why they're taking them. We've been among the best to document the high number of people who sign up, About a third of them actually take the course, begin the course as sort of initiators, but only about 5 or 10% of those who have started the course actually complete it. I like to say it's rules of thirds. About a third of the people who sign up actually look at the first lecture, and about a third of those who actually look at the first lecture actually complete the course. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but that's a pretty good rule of thumb. And we need to study each one of those. It's easy to sign up when it's free, right? Once you've started the course, we need to understand what you're expecting from the course and why many of those people get what they seem to want out of the course without completing it. What is it that people are looking for in courses that doesn't require completing every lecture or completing every assignment? Is it brushing up in their knowledge? Is it prepping them for their next program or their next job? So I think a lot of additional research is going to be needed. And as I said, I think at the University of Pennsylvania, rather than speculate, we have been delving into the data and trying to publish as much as we can to educate the conversation about massive online education programs. Well, I think the University of Pennsylvania has been a leader in looking at people who take massive online courses and trying to understand who they are, why they're taking the courses, which ones complete, which ones don't complete, what sociodemographic groups they come from, what countries they come from, and getting hard data and looking at the hundreds of thousands and now millions of people who've taken these massive online courses is one of the things the University of Pennsylvania is leading in. Another thing we're trying to evaluate is what exactly people get out of the courses and how do they use that information. A third thing we're looking at is whether in what ways these massive online courses actually enhance education or maybe undermine education, and trying to actually empirically evaluate their benefits in terms of actual education, knowledge retained, knowledge utilized, I think is going to be a very important finding as well. That obviously takes more time, but we are committed at the University of Pennsylvania, our group and many others here, to actually good quantitative research that will inform the discussion going forward about massive online courses. We're actually trying to understand more concretely what people are getting out of the course, what expectations they come into a course with, and what, when they stop, what have they gotten that allows them to stop? Or are they stopping because it's too much time, or they don't have the resources, or there's some other barrier and they would like to go to completion. So this idea of how exactly to tailor a massive online course to make it maximally beneficial for the groups that are taking them, I think is a major issue and really something we know almost nothing about. So that'll be a major focus. We, in my office and my research group, are especially interested in the global perspective. I run Penn Global, and part of what motivates us is who are the people in foreign countries, especially developing countries, who are using massive online courses, and how can we enhance our offerings to really enhance their education. That's our mandate in our office, and we are going to continue to research that particular issue.